Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to have a debate about the theme if homosexuality is given by birth. Homosexuality defined as a sexual orientation characterized by sexual, physical, or emotional attraction for people of the same sex. Around 1% to 6% of the population identify him or herself as homosexual. My name is Luisa Fernanda Gonzalez. In first place, I think homosexuality represents a biological and survival advantage for the community. This is explained by gay uncle theory that says that even these individuals don't reproduce, they will still increase the prevalence of their family genetics, providing resources to the members of the family. Because after all, it's not only about the fetus individual but the fetus family. This also through studies that showed that homosexual individuals low levels of hostility and high levels of intelligence, emotional, compassion, and cooperation. And in that way, I want to highlight this quote of the scientist E.O. Wilson that said that homosexuality gives advantage for the group, gives advantage to the group, and a society that condemns homosexuality condemns themselves, because homosexual individuals they provide a balance, emotional and community balance for the societies where are developed, where they are developed.
Okay, so hi guys, my name is Maria Victoria and Luisa. Actually, in my opinion, this is not an advantage because homosexual people cannot reproduce themselves. So if they can't do this, where is society going to go? I mean, it's not going to keep growing.
Well, I that is not quite correct. Actually, there are some genetics aspects that said that actually the genes that codify for homosexual orientation are also codifying for attraction. So a straight woman that have that genes have more stronger attraction for men and in average have more babies.
Well, I'm actually going to go against this because there is no support in the scientific research for the conclusion that homosexuality is biologically determined. I mean, there are two people from the Family Research Council that say so. For example, Timothy Daly, which is a senior researcher from this center, says that the causes are complex but are deeply rooted in the early childhood development. If it is indeed genetically based, it is difficult to see how it could have survived in the gene pool over a period of time. And Peter Spring, which is the vice president from the Family Research Council, says that the notion that people are born gay is nothing less than the big lie of the entire homosexual movement. Science has not proven that there is a gay gene or that people are born gay. I mean, it has to do more with life experiences, homosexual culture, the environment, even family, but definitely not genetic.
Well, I'm afraid that I have to disagree with you because sexual orientation, like other characteristics of the individual, is determined by a molecular and genetic components and conditions. There are actually two studies in the 90s that study human genome that found that homosexual men have more homosexual relatives compared to heterosexual men. And also they found a linkage in the X chromosomes that proves there are a genetic heritability to this component of this sexual orientation. Also, in 1993, the USA National Institute of Health found that a specific region of this X chromosome called XQ28 and the chromosome 8 have like a predispose a man to be gay. So there's scientific studies and researches that prove there's a genetics and not only a gay gene, there's also several gay genes that predispose an individual to have attraction for the same sex people.
Okay, so I get what you're trying to say there, but there are other explanations for homosexuality, like life experiences. So let's talk about one type of life experience, like, for example, childhood abuse. there are many people that were abused in their childhood and that are now homosexual, bisexual, or even pedophiles. And there are also statistics that say so. Not saying that all people that were abused in their childhood are going to become homosexual, but some of them do. Like, for example, here in some statistics say that about 40% of people that had any type of abuse in their childhood became homosexual or bisexual. There is about a 30% of people that were psychologically abused that also became homosexual. About a 20% of people that were physically abused that became homosexual or bisexual, or even an 18% of people that only witnessed violence became homosexual. I guess that what I'm trying to say is that there are other explanations for this sexual orientation and not that it's determined at birth.
Well, actually, I have to say that there's also a relationship between morphological structures of the brain and actually neurological patterns to explain sexual orientations. And I want to highlight 3 points in this theme. And the first one is there are morphological differences between sexual orientations, like I want you see in this graphic. I want to share with you. Well, here we see the differentiation between physical sex differentiation that means organs and neural sex differentiation that talks about how the people understand its sexuality or the attractions. And we can see here homosexuality, in fact, transsexuality, pedophile, like you said before, and heterosexuality. So it's something that is defined in the pregnancy develop. And also, there's a specific structures of the brain that are different depending on the sexual orientation of that people. For example, you can see here 3 specific structures that differ depending on the sexual orientation. There's also cognitive abilities that are different between sexual orientations, and they are defined actually. For example, here homosexual men and heterosexual women have elements in common that it's called as brain asymmetry, and that brain asymmetry is defined during embryonic development. So it's something that happened before even birth. And what you said before, that it's not about the situation or context. Actually, the organization for sexual orientation is given in fetal process. So after puberty, these structures activate and actually define what is the sexual orientation of that individual.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to disagree on one point because, in fact, pregnancy tests are not sure and absolutely not secure. I mean, anything could happen inside the womb or anything can alterate the fetus, you know? But
Yeah.
there's something that is scientific proven, like Judith Stacy says, which is a professor from a university in New York. She says that the sexual orientation on parents appears to have a unique effect on children in the political sensitive domain of sexuality. So what I'm trying to say is that um, if kids grow up in a homosexual family, there are more propense to become homosexual or bisexual. Why? Because their entire life they've been seeing this influence, um, and they're are more propense to follow this.
Yeah.
So they're more open to, I don't know, for example, homoerotic relationships, and they see this like as something normal. So as you can see, there are other explanations.
Well, I want to summarize what I said in 3 points. The first one, there is a relationship that, like all we know, between genetics and behavior patterns. The second one, it's their biological reason why homosexuality exists. And the third one, and I think it's the most important one, it's there's a gay brain, like we can say like that, that define morphological and neurological parents that before birth and define the sexual orientation of that individual. So, in my opinion, and for the reasons I said before, homosexuality is in fact given at birth.
Okay, well, to summarize what I just said, as you can guys see, I am totally against that sexual orientation is determined at birth because, as I said in my first point, there is no scientific support for that type of conclusion. There are also other explanations, like for example, life experiences that explain that homosexuality becomes or is given after certain age and not at birth, or even the influence that parents have on their kids. Like I said, if kids grow up on a homosexual family, they they're more propense to become homosexual or bisexual. I mean, I'm not saying that all kids will do that, but it is an explanation for that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.